for $150,000 to the winner. Here it is Chris Evert Lloyd and Steffi Graf. Good day to you, everyone. I'm Cliff Drysdale, along with Fred Stolley and Billie Jean King. And Fred, I suppose that you could say that this may be the changing of the guard. You have perennial Chris Evert Lloyd. She's been around for so long, such a tremendous player and such a great representative of women's tennis. And now young 17-year-old Steffi Graf from West Germany.
Two great semi-finals here played in the Lipton's women's event, Cliff, and I'm going to go for young Steffi Graf. I think she handled conditions against Martina better than any youngster I've ever seen the other day. Chris Evert Lloyd has been fantastic for the game, the greatest lady, always very presentable and loves the sport, but I think it is a changing of the guard, and I think the youngster will win this one.
Interesting. Fred, you know, somebody among us here is really responsible, maybe, for what's going on court down there. Billie Jean King. She's been around a long time, from the start of women's tennis. Billie Jean, by the way, also a new Hall of Famer, for which we congratulate you. Billie Jean, this match, Steffi Graf and Chris Evert Lloyd.
Well, I agree with Fred that they both really handled the conditions well, but I'm going to go with Chris Evert Lloyd. I've been talking to her this last week, and she's so excited. She thinks that the game's wide open, that there's four of them. Besides her and Steffi, of course, there's Hanna, Malikova, and Martina. And she said she would rather play Steffi, and Steffi said she'd rather play Chris. So here they are.
It's interesting, isn't it? Four, all vying for #1 this year, and to some extent anyway, this one may decide on where this whole thing ends up. It's Evert Lloyd and Steffi Graf, the final of the Lipton, in just a moment.
Lipton put the taste.
Drysdale, Billie Jean, that match that was played in some wind, and that may have been an excuse for Martina, was played outstandingly, though, by the young 17-year-old from West Germany.
What she does so well, Cliff, is she hits that forehand, and she's so forceful with it. She hit right through the wind and handled the conditions much better than Martina, who really had to depend on control. Martina did not serve that well, but Steffi never let up throughout the two sets.
Now, I was talking to somebody, Billie Jean, and it may have been Fred, earlier, about Steffi Graf's game, and he said the important thing about Steffi Graf, as you look at her, West German, of course, she still lives there, 5'8", 116, is that she can only go up from here, and that serve motion in her of hers has got something that can only get better. She can hit the ball harder and harder. It's not like she's stuck with, for example, like Chrissy Evert's serve, where there really wasn't very far for it to go. She's 32 years old, 5'6", 125 pounds in Fort Lauderdale, now Boca Raton.
What you're saying is Steffi hasn't reached her potential yet, and her service mechanically is good, so it's going to get better.
That's the point. Chris Evert Lloyd, first game of the match, women's singles finals. This place is jammed. There's a hush almost of anticipation. They've been waiting for this. Evert Lloyd over Graf, as you see. Chris beat Steffi a year ago in the final of this championship. Martina didn't play.
Well, Chris better get on her horse, because she's going to do a lot of running tonight.
Steffi Graf won the last time they played. Break points for Steffi Graf. First game of the match, 128 draw, men and women. Best of 3 sets, this, of course. This is the final of the Lipton International Players Championship.
Chris has trouble because she cannot hit a topspin serve. She's going to hit into Steffi's forehand a lot. In fact, that was the first backhand return this game the Steffi's had to hit, and Chris won the point.
Chrissy got a good first serve in there that time. That was the reason for that one. This youngster has certainly come out smoking off the forehand side.
Side much more so than Chrissy. Interesting to see how this is going to develop. We'll be back. In no uncertain terms to Chris Evert Lloyd. First game of the match, a break.
15 hot.
Richard Kaufman had all kinds of troubles in the men's semi-finals between Connors and Ivan Lendl. Apparently he survived. A lot of controversy in that match, played earlier and won by Ivan Lendl. As you see the temperature down there, and Ivan Lendl will play against Miloslav Machir, also from Czechoslovakia. Fred Stoll is at courtside, and Fred, as I look down at you there, I can't imagine playing under really nicer conditions than we're enjoying right this minute.
Very pleasant down here at the moment, Cliff. The sun is starting to settle down, to go down the west, and there's a bit of cloud coverage, a slight breeze, but not as bad as it has been throughout the day, and just about perfect conditions.
30 all.
Looking very distinguished down there, Fred. Fred, of course, is so close to Chris Evert Lloyd and indeed Steffi Graf. He's kind of whispering a bit to us now. 30 all.
I think that Chris is going to have to take a couple of chances and hit wide to Steffi's forehand to open up that court so she can finally get to the backhand, because Steffi is going to be running around that backhand as often as possible.
This is break point. Breaker serve followed by a breaker serve. How often that happens. You saw there from Steffi Graf, though, especially off the backhand side. She's going to be hitting a lot of those. Her variety, Billie Jean, she can hit under it and over it. In fact, she hit them both twice in that rally alone.
Well, that's what I saw 5 years ago when I watched her play at Wimbledon, and I felt that she was the most promising youngster because she could do those two things, Cliff. She has terrific footwork as well. That forehand really is when she opens up her shoulders a little too early, and she knows when she's doing that. And let's see if she corrects it.
Last point of that game, I thought, was a great tactic by Chris Evert Lloyd to go in on that shot early in the match to put the young Steffi under pressure. She missed that passing shot, the first real passing shot she had a crack at.
feel Chrissy measuring, and then saying, no, this thing's going to go long. It was only just long.
You're right, Fred, about Chris going in early in the match. We talked about that 2 nights ago. She was saying, you know, I've got to start going in earlier in the match. Don't wait until it gets tight and then try to go in.
Watch Steffi, by the way. She is constantly on her toes. She's skipping every moment of every point. Watch it.
She'll try to run around her backhand and hit a powerful forehand if she can.
I thought the best point technically that's been made, Billie Jean, is the fact that, as you said, Chris doesn't have that topspin serve. It's going to be difficult for her to get it into the backhand side. Double fault there. Maybe that was the reason why. 15-30. 2 games to 1. 1 apiece, rather.
Well, this is what we watched 5 years ago, and she's even better. Look how much discipline. Always on her feet, on the balls of her feet, getting in position. There's a big topspin forehand. Look at that, always preparing. That's good for all of us who try to play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Chris wants to start going in early in this match, and she gets a short reply from Steffi and takes advantage of it.
Did you see Steffi, rather? She was staying on that side of the court. She wanted the forehand. She didn't think Chris was going to go there. 3 games have been played. 3 breaks of serve. 2 of them against Chris Evert Lloyd. Steffi Graf leads 2 games to 1. The 17-year-old from West Germany is in charge. Deal. Then you got some French, you got some West Germans, a bunch of others, all broadcasting to all over the world. At least 30 countries are taking this. It's available to even more than that. Europe, South America, Africa, Australia, of course. Fred always tells you about those. Folks down under enjoying this telecast along with you. Steffi Graf, 2 games to 1. First set, women's final. Billie Jean, $150,000 to the winner of this match. Now, how important is the money to those girls? Are they thinking about it at all?
No, it's the last thing you think about. $15 love. I guess Chrissy's bank manager is the only one who really worries about it then, and Steffi Graf, when she takes it back to West Germany, of course, that mark's so high, it's halved like it was for you. There's Dandy Don.
He likes tennis. He was up at the Nabisco Masters. Fred talked to him up there.
Likes Lipton iced tea too, doesn't he?
Short forehand. Chris doesn't really like that one either, as you saw right there. And Graf meant that shot.
Game point, Graf. watch Steffi Graf, rather as I watch her, the thought occurs to me that she could dominate the sport just like Martina did, and to some extent the same way that you did for so long.
Oh, she can, and the same way Chris Evert Lloyd has for so many years.
She's only 17 years old, remember. By the way, looking at Don Meredith there, Fred, Ken Fouts, our producer, knows him from many years ago, so he went over there and talked to him. And you know, when we're doing this thing on the satellite, folks who get it at their ESPN homes, they don't always get the commercials if they're on the satellite, just pick it up directly. And he said that he heard some of the remarks that we were making, and so I only bring all that up because you'd be interested to know that he is a real tennis fan, because he's been watching us. We've been on the air now since Monday a week ago. This is a 14-day championship.
Chrissy's finding it a little difficult to trade forehands from the back of the court with Graf. I agree with Billie Jean. I think she's got to take a couple of risks and get to the forehand so that it opens up the backhand side. She's guiding too many, in my opinion, over to the backhand side at the moment, or trying to.
Steffi took 2 or 3 months off to work on that backhand to make that slice a little stronger, because sometimes she has a little bit like a noodle wrist on it. And this last winter she worked on her serve. So she's one of the few players that takes time off to improve her game, which I agree with, especially at this young age.
This match was going to be played earlier in the day. As you can see, the sun is going down kind of quickly. In fact, the lights have been turned on already here, just so that the transition is easier for the players. It's 15:40, double break point. The reason for it being delayed is because the men's finals were delayed because of the weather. The men's semifinals, rather, right. And in the final, and you'll see that live at 4 p.m. this afternoon, you'll see Van Lindell and Machia. That's Eastern time, of course. Steffi Graf has broken again, 4 games to 1. That represents 2 serve breaks.
Position number 1, number 2 frame, getting the racket back about shoulder height. Third most important one, point of contact, the racket heads a little bit low, and then she finishes up high, so there's topspin on that. Chris Evert, look how much higher in frame 2 her racket is. More open in frame 3, and comes through with the upper part of her body more than Steffi in frame 4.
Interesting comparison. And by the way, the similarity is more interesting than the differences, really. A little more topspin in Steffi's, and she hits the ball a little harder, but there are a lot of similarities. They both prepare really early.
Very well, but Chris hits more of a side spin, almost sometimes high to low.
Most of Steffi Graf's serves thus far in this match have been directed to the Evert Lloyd forehand.
Opportunity, Steffi Graf, this is exactly what she's going to have to do. She gets a short shot and she powders it to the backhand, comes in, keeps going forward. I think Chris should be doing that as often as possible. Take a few chances. You're especially if you're behind in the set. Nothing to lose.
There's a chance. 15-30. Oh, that was a well-played point. It was called long, believe it or not. Well, it might have been long. So believe it, it's instead of 15-40 and 2 break points for Evert Lloyd, it's 30-all.
That must have missed us by a centimeter.
A fraction.
Chris was anxious there. She didn't used to do that so often. She said now that she's older, she's not as patient. Well, Steffi Graf really cranks up on this big crucial point, add point. Look how high that toss is. Look at the great knee bend, though, and look at reach and hit left to right. And that's why that ball kept going out to Chris's backhand.
You know, this event is only 3 years old. Well, they've played every other time. That's twice. Evert Lloyd won both of their previous meetings here in this Lipton Championship. Yep. In '85, she beat Steffi in the semifinal 4-2, and then as you watch this again in the final last year, 4-2 again.
This is what's been working for Chris. Did she hesitate, Fiery, on that passing shot? Looked like, I thought Chris hesitated a little bit getting in.
She did hesitate going in, but we have this outside person here with a cushion, a waffle cushion, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's an aggravating kind of a whine that emanates from that thing. I don't know whether it's a PA system or the local or whatever it is. Anyway, it's aggravating, but this is another triple set point here. And by the way, also break point, of course, for Graf. Steffi Graf in the semi-final. She made really short shrift of the #1 player in the world, Martina Navratilova. That score was 6-2, 6-3. She's won the first set here against Chris Evert Lloyd, 6 games to 1. Goma, Kyle, Lisa Bonda, and Martina Navratilova. Look at that. She hasn't lost a set in the tournament yet. Really not even close, as a matter of fact. The toughest match that she had, I think, was... I'll check it.
Steffi Graf has that
really hasn't had a tough one.
Steffi has that same confident walk, that same confident air in the semi-final match against Martina Navratilova. Chris Evert Lloyd won 7 points apart from the one game that she won. Only 7 points. It's 11 total, including the game in the first set.
Bergen had the toughest. Did the toughest against. Yeah, it was 3 and 4.
Right.
That was the toughest match so far of this tournament, this Lipton tournament that Graf's had. forehand. But look, this is the story right here. Evert Lloyd having that many more unforced errors than an opponent is not the usual story. It's usually the other way around when you're playing Chris Evert Lloyd.
Jean, I know you'll agree with the statement that she is being forced into some of those errors. I know by definition that's not an unforced error, but boy, she's making errors that she wouldn't make because Steffi's putting so darn much pressure on her.
Just like that last game, if you notice, Chris's shots were all landing just around the service line, and Steffi had her running side to side as well as hitting with more depth. Look at that serve.
First game of the second set, the final of the women's singles, 6-1 easily for Steffi Graf, 17 years old, from West Germany, over Chris Evert Lloyd.
Well, you're looking at the next number one for sure. She went up to number 2 on the rankings on March 2nd. So during this tournament.
Graf over Evert Lloyd, 6-1 first set. She now leads 1-0 in the second. This is the Lipton International Players Championship. We're on Key Biscayne.
Got to the baseline, getting ready to serve it. Let's take a look at the famous backhand two-handy from Chris. Frame 2, she sets up unbelievably well. Look at the point of contact over the ball and torso through. That's where she gets all her power, is that torso. Same with Jimmy Connor. And take another look. See how she's running, gets her racket back, square to the ball, point of contact, firm wrist, and then through. Chris Evert Lloyd's going to have to do to get back in this match is to go ahead and hit that one over the forehand and hit this short one, so it leaves her some space open. Now, where are you going to hit this, Chris? I don't know. Down the line. She's made a couple there.
Did you see where Steffi was, as you know, as we stopped that thing there? She's right over there protecting the backhand side, and of course that's why she lost that point.
Chris has not won a point yet on second serves. When you know that's going on, you've got to make sure you get your first serve in. You try to keep track of that when you're out there playing.
Billie Jean, there's an unforced error, typical example. She's trying for a lot more than she usually does because she's playing Steffi Graf. That's why the unforced errors come so high.
That's right. That last one, you could just feel that Chris had to step it up a gear if she was going to win the point. And of course, it caused her to rush.
Well, that's the second game that Evert Lloyd has won in the match. He lost the first set the first set 6-1. Manon Graf was Steffi's victim in the first round. Listen to these scores: 6-1, 6-love. Elise Bergen 6-3, 6-4. We talked about that, but then listen to this, Billie Jean. Graf over Goma 1-love, over Kyle Love and 1, over Bonda Love and 1, and then of course the semi-final match over Navratilova, that was 3-2. But she has sailed through this championship. And Marilyn Buckholz, his wife, next to him. Butch is the founder, the Teddy Tinling behind Butch Buckholz, founder of this championship. Down here, they call this his baby. And I think that's a fair characterization.
And that other person was Anna Lee Thurston, who works for Virginia Slims. PR.
Anna Lee, by the way, very helpful in terms of getting some information to us about the players throughout this championship. 15 love, Steffi Graf, 1 game all, second set.
My observations from courtside, Cliff, I just think, and Billie Jean, I just think that Steffi Graf is just playing so well. They said in the semi-final Martina didn't play that well. My opinion of that was because I would go along with that to a point, but Steffi Graf did not allow Martina to get into the match. Thus far in this match, she has not led Chris Evert Lloyd. She's just hit her off the court with that forehand. Maybe Chrissy can get back into it in the second set.
Fred's kind of whispering from down there. I mentioned that before. Well, he has to, because he's, what, about 10 steps from the lady that you're looking at right now. He talked too loud, or she's going to say something to him. Either that, Billie Jean, or maybe she'd like him to talk so she can learn something about this sport.
Well, it's funny because Chris hit with Mary Jo Fernandez, of course, whose Fiery's helped, and Ed Smatt at Turnberry. So, what should I do? Well, it's kind of luck that Chris Evert Lloyd needs to get back in this match, and of course to get into the second set. Steffi thought it was going to be much deeper, of course, and couldn't get to it. Nice break for Chris.
This is the Lipton, excuse me, Fred, go ahead.
So far, Billie Jean, Steffi Graf has only hit 2 topspin backhands. One was an attempted pass shot in the first game, and she's played 1 from the back of the court. I think she's got to be a little braver off the backhand. She's just slicing everything, and I think this is allowing Chrissy to start to creep into this match.
Played it exactly like she wanted to. She just never made the last shot.
And it was an out ball. It would have hit the backstop, that forehand from Graf.
point. Chris hitting that down the line has been very effective, but did not get enough on this. She had to hit a one-handed backhand ball, and of course Graf had plenty of time to get over there. Here you see it again. See how she stays over the ball. Watch that stutter step, gets ready. Had to hit the one-handy. She had a big reach there, and that set it up for Steph.
Any which way you put it, Billie Jean, this kid can play, and she is just a kid after all. She's just 17 years old. She's from West Germany, and Chris Evert Lloyd is in a lot of trouble. She's got her work cut out. 1-2, no serve breaks here, second set. She lost the first. Here's how she got to the final. Jennifer Mundell, first round. Kijimuda from Japan. Nelson Dunbar in straight sets. Stephanie Rahe, Claudia Koda-Kilsch, and Hannah and Likova all in straight sets.
Well, Chris let that one go, Fred.
Let that one go, and
Finally.
that's only the second time that there's been a topspin, a passing shot hit by Steffi Graf. Hasn't had to hit too many of them. I think Chrissy should make her hit a few more.
And Fred, but look at this. She plays the wind perfectly. You see how far that was away from Chris when it went by her, and then it went right in and curved in there.
Wind from left to right of your screen. What there is, not near as bad as it was yesterday, of course. Serve into the forehand side, and it worked.
Those don't work too often. That one did. Kept going away from her.
30 all. Second serve. Chris has not been too good behind second serve. She's in trouble if she loses this point. It's 30 all.
Could you believe how quickly Steffi went over to that backhand side to be ready for the next shot for the forehand? Crowd's liking this. Of course, Steffi Graf hit for about 40 minutes earlier today with Pavel Slozil, the Czech player. He used to play on the circuit when I was playing.
He's coaching her now, yeah?
Yes, he's coaching. And, of course, Peter Graf still is really her coach.
Right. Well, Steffi Graf has broken serve, and Chris Evert Lloyd, as I said, in a lot of trouble. Peter Graf, of course, is her father. And Pavel Slozil, as you said, Czechoslovakian player. I guess he's a practice partner and a coach. He told me in the locker, he said, well, I'm coaching, I'm helping her out. And
I think you should say more, because he said, you know, he's such a good player. He knows the game. He's been there.
Yep.
But they also came out about 5 minutes before the match started. 5 or 10 minutes to get used to the conditions.
5 breaks of serve, as you saw for Graf, 1 for Evert Lloyd.
Crowd trying to help Chris to get in this.
Yeah, well, she lives just up the road. Of course, she's from this area, born and bred here, really. Boca Raton. Oh, yeah.
Well, Steffi Graf has been playing the conditions better than anybody this week. And again, she shows us, watch how she threads this backhand. Looks like it's going to go out, and it just curves in. It just hits the line.
You know, I'll be honest with you, Billie Jean. When she played that semi-final against Martina Navratilova, she played well, yes. I thought she also was a little lucky because she got a lot of lines and stuff like that. That's the parents, of course, of Chrissy
Colette,
Lloyd.
Jimmy.
Colette and Jimmy. Colette on the left.
They've seen a lot of matches.
Billie Jean, is that it obviously was not luck or anything like that. She just plays that way. If she can do it constantly, 2 matches in a row here against the 2 greatest, well, forget luck. This is break point. 2 of them for Evert Lloyd.
Great footwork there from Steffi Graf to get around. That was on a backhand side. She had time to get around, get the feet in position and clobber that forehand.
Break point.
Evert cannot get the depth of shot. Watch this. Watch how this one's slow and short, and she just cranks up, and it's goodbye. You know, it's funny because Chris won her first big match against Margaret Court when she was 15 years old, which was 17 years ago, and Steffi Graf is 17 years old.
Stay about even with her, well, that's one thing. Then she can get into the forehand, the backhand side. But as soon as Steffi sort of imposes herself on the point, then Chrissy can't get in the backhand anymore. She runs around and whack the winner, the forehand. Steffi Graf. She was down 15-40 and she has come back again. Well, it's 4 games to 1 now in the second set. She won the first easily.
Steffi a little tighter around the handle, and on the right, Chris Evert Lloyd keeps her hands kind of loose and then decides what grip she's going to use.
The crowd are trying to get behind Chris Evert Lloyd. They've supported her and followed her for so darn long. She's such an exciting player. She's just the queen, really, of tennis, has been for so long. They wanted to do better against their new queen. You may be seeing the coronation of Steffi Graf right here. She destroyed Martina in the semi-finals, and to this point anyway is doing the same, even worse, to Chris Evert Lloyd. There's Martina. Dark glasses on next to Alan Mills. That second row up there in the middle.
And next to Martina, on her right and our left, is Donna Poliot, who's one of a WITA trainer, who's been taking care of a lot of the players the last 2 weeks.
Tommy Weiss's Don Johnson is here today. He's been here all afternoon. We've had 3 matches here so far. The finish, the conclusion of the match between Connors and Lendl, and then the other semi-final men's singles match between Yannick Noah and Miloslav Machir, won by Machir. So it's going to be Machir and Lendl, number 1 seed in the final. See that men's singles final live on ESPN, 4 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon. That's 4 o'clock on the East Coast. Lendl and Machir for the championship of Key Biscayne and the Lipton International Players Championship.
Chris just not getting her first serve in. And against Steffi today, you're in big trouble if you don't get your first serve in. Goodbye. All the Germans have been asking me this week, do you think Steffi can be number 1? Yes, if she hits shots like this.
Hey, first serve or second serve, this kid's got that much confidence now. She's just not going to miss.
Steffi never gives up. Look at this footwork. Gets ready, hits a forehand. Watch her get in position. This is that volley that Chris put away on her, and she still almost got to it. That's a sign of a champion, though. Always trying.
Billie Jean, what is going through Chris Evert Lloyd's mind? She's never been beaten this badly or in so darn long. In a moment.
Thinking that she'll take each point, but I'll tell you right now, Chris is saying she's playing too well. Whatever I try does not work.
No, Chrissy's a lady. She's been great for the game. She's going to admit defeat here, but whatever she's tried today, they've been on court now 51 minutes. I think it was 57 minutes, the total time with Navratilova. 2 incredible performances.
Steffi Graf for the championship of the Lipton International, a Grand Slam format event, 2 weeks, 7 matches to win this title, and she's serving for it.
One of the few easy shots that Graf has missed. Remember, Chris has played, this is her 2nd tournament since September. She had a bad left knee. She's done a lot of Cybex. It's much better now. Has a bone spur on her right foot. She's probably in the best shape she's been in years. Chris is going to hang in there.
But she's hanging on the thinnest of threads, isn't she?
Too good. When a player plays like that, there you see the percentage points, 1 on serve. Graf is doing much better in that department.
watching the coronation of a new queen. That may be premature, Billie Jean, because the tournaments have to be played on grass, and there's so many indoor championships. You can't count Martina out. Of course you can't. But you have to look at this person and wonder. Evert Lloyd serving at 2-5. In the second set, she lost the first.
Yeah, good 3 inches out that serve. There's a lot of Lions people in the crowd. They all want Chrissy, as you can imagine.
Yes, we're helping. I think Steffi started to rush a little because she wants it so badly and wants to finish. And this is where you have to be careful to take each point one at a time.
Seems to me I've heard that somewhere before as one of Billie Jean King's favourite statements. She used to do it when she played 1 point at a time.
You used to tell me that.
I had a different attitude. See, I was just happy to get to the next point, no matter where it was. Just.
Bit unlucky, I think, on that. But Steffi is so good. She puts so much pressure on you to make this shot perfectly.
This is match point for Steffi Graf. It is also championship point.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Chris's forehand has really let her down this match.
From West Germany, 6-1, 6-2. Would you have believed it? Well, I don't know, but who would have believed that she could have done it quite as easily as she did over Martina Navratilova, 6-2, 6-3 in the semifinals, and now over a young lady who used to be the world's #1 player for so long, Evert Lloyd, 6-1, 6-2. Well, has she arrived? You better believe it. Steffi Graf, #1 in the world, probably after this.
Hey, Steph. Finals, 57 minutes against Martina and 58 minutes today. You must be pretty excited.
Oh, I'm really excited about the way I was playing here in this whole tournament, and against the best 2 players I've won, and I think that's a great tournament for me.
Just a little about today's match. Chrissy didn't serve too well, and you kept putting a lot of pressure on her with that forehand.
Yeah, right from the beginning I was really hitting my forehand, and no, she had problems in the beginning of the match. She didn't really get into her rhythm, you know, and she didn't feel so good as usually she does, and I was feeling well out there.
Well, you look pretty good. That slice backhand, we noted that throughout the match, you only hit about 3 topspin backhands. Was that part of the tactics? Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Well, you know, she doesn't really like my slice on her forehand, and that's where she usually makes her arrows, and that's why I was trying to do it. And I'm not feeling too comfortable yet to play all the way topspin, but it's going to come for sure.
Well, congratulations. A tremendous 2 weeks for you here, and look forward to see you along down the lines. Thanks very much. Back to you, Cliff.
Thank you, Fred. Good question, by the way. It's interesting, isn't it? She knows exactly what she's doing. She was slicing that backhand. Why? Well, that was her tactic against Chris Evert-Lloyd. She can come over it. She says she's going to, in the future, Steffi Graf from West Germany is the Lipton International Players Championship champion. Having some trouble with...
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Before we start our presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank all of you for your courtesy and your understanding for today. We had over 17,000 people here today, and we're proud of that, but we understand the confusion, and I just want to express my thanks and thank you for your understanding. Mayor Clark was right. You're great people. Also, a special thanks to the Metro-Dade Park Rangers and the police who had to deal with our 17,000 people. Hats off, guys. You did a great job. I'd like to introduce you to a very important sponsor to women's tennis, Annalie Thurston, representing the Virginia Slim Series. Annalie, hello. And a gentleman that made a very important phone call for this tournament, the executive director of the Women's International Tennis Association, Merit Stierheim. Representing the Thomas J. Lipton Company, very good friend of mine, Jerry Boyce. We'd like now to award the runner-up trophy to somebody who needs no introduction, Chris Evert-Lloyd.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I wish I could have played a little bit better for all of you. But anyway, first of all, I'd like to thank Butch Buchholz for being the founder of such a great tournament. I think the players all enjoyed it. It was unfortunate a little bit with the weather, but you all came out anyway, especially the last 3 or 4 days. So, you know, I really think on behalf of all the players, I'd like to say thank you. And I hope in the future, I know in the future, it's going to become even better and better. So thank you. Also, Jerry Boyce and Lipton, I've been a part of Lipton for many, many years, and they're a class act, and I'd like to thank them for sponsoring this tournament. Of course, if you look around the court, you can see all the other sponsors, Shearson, Lehman Brothers, they're a big sponsor, and everybody else, thank you. But I'd just like to say congratulations to Steffi. I used to say when I played her that she's got a bright future. Now, I have to say she has a very bright present and past and future. But she had a great tournament being Martina, who is still number 1 on the computer. And, well, I mean, she is. But she's still, I think in the eyes of Steffi, that was a big win for her also. And hopefully beating me was a big win for her. I don't know. But anyway, I'd like to congratulate her. She's really playing well. She cleaned my clock, so to speak. I didn't expect the ball to come across that hard. I've been practicing with a lot of the men, and they don't hit that hard.
So she played great. So thank all of you for coming out and supporting this event, and my parents, also my family, and I hope I'll be able to come back next year and play. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1987 Lipton International Players Women's Champion, Steffi Graf. Great match.
Well, you've heard from Steffi Graf already. Fred Stolle spoke to her. What a fine lady, what a fine champion. Well, you know, earlier this week, our own Billie Jean King had a chance to have a quiet moment with the lady that you've just seen, Chris Evert Lloyd. She had some interesting things to say.
Chris, you're 32 years old now, and do you feel differently even this year maybe compared to a year ago?
Yeah, I think in the last year I feel it's just getting a little bit tougher physically. Mentally, it was always tough. The last few years has been tough because I played so many matches and I played against these women, 30, 40, 50 times. So, but physically, really the last year and a half, I find that what happens is I'm not jumping out of bed onto the tennis court and running around like a maniac like I did when I was 16 years old. It's just taking me like 20 minutes now when I warm up slowly, and I don't really like to run a lot the first 20 minutes. I'm just sort of getting keyed up and just trying to get a little more flexible. But it's taking longer for me to warm up, and also it's taking me longer to recuperate, after a tough match. Whereas it used to take maybe, 24 hours now, maybe I'll feel it 2 days afterwards. So it's sort of been a rude awakening. I mean, it's not critical. I mean, it's not that critical, and I don't mean to exaggerate, but it's always been easy for me, just to go out there and practice and play matches, and I've never had an injury in my life. And this past year, it's been a little bit tougher for me.
You've played one tournament in the last 5 months. You lost to Kate Gompert last week, and you look like you're in pretty good form so far in this tournament. What do you think it's going to take for you to win here?
I think that the players, I think conditioning is going to be an important factor in this tournament, because first of all, it's 80 degrees. On the hard court, it's probably 90, 95 degrees, 100 degrees maybe. You're contending with the wind, which has been really bad the last few days, like it always is in South Florida. So you're contending with the wind and the hot weather. And I've had 3 easy matches under 45 minutes, and I'm trying to make up for it with extra practice time, but I don't know if I hope that's enough, but I'm not sure in my mind that that's enough. I need some tough matches. I need some hour and a half, 2-hour matches really to test myself. And if I can pull through those matches, I'll be a little more confident.
Do you get afraid about what the future holds for Chris Evert? I mean, do you ever just think, what am I going to do 6 months, a year, 2 years from now?
I think that thought crept into my mind more in previous years. When I was playing, when I was in my middle 20s, or even my late 20s, I kept playing and playing, and it was sort of automatic. It was like a robot, like, well, of course I'll play the next year, and I'll keep playing. I think now at 32, I don't have any fears at all. I mean, I know I'll be okay whatever happens. I know I'll be all right. Maybe I just feel more secure. Maybe taking the 5 months off, I realized that I didn't need tennis as much as I have needed it in previous years. I still think I can become. I think the important thing is to become involved and busy and stay busy. And I think that after tennis, I just have to find things that I enjoy doing. I don't want to lay around the house, you know, and count my money. I mean, I think...
That'd take you forever.
Oh, my God. I mean, I would still like to have goals, and I think that's the great thing about tennis. I always had a goal, and I still want to have it, but it's going to have to be in other areas. And it's going to be tough. I mean, the highs in tennis, I wonder if I can ever match them again, you know, in doing something else. I don't think I will, because I've had so many great feelings and so many highs in tennis.
I know that people have asked me a lot the last year and a half or 2 years, and I'd like to ask you is, what's happening to American tennis? You know, what's going to happen after Chris leaves the game from the youngsters in America? I mean, what are your feelings on that?
My feelings are, I think that the Europeans are hungrier right now. The younger Europeans. I think that they work really hard, and their goal and their incentive is to maybe get out of their country and to come to America. And I think that's a real big incentive for the Europeans, because, you know, America still has the stigma of being, you know, the land of opportunity and an exciting place, and I think it's a real thrill for them, so I think they work harder. I think the young Americans are spoiled. You know, I think the agents sort of grab them when they're 15, 16 years old, and they sign $1 million deals for them, and they see that they're earning all this money, and then they win a few big matches, and they feel the pressure. You know, there's a lot of pressure on them because they have, you know, a lot of their sponsors and endorsements and agents and coaches, and everyone's sort of waiting for them to break through and be the next Chris or Martina or whoever. So I think it's a mixture. I think, you know, the Europeans are hungrier, and Americans are a bit spoiled.
Down for the day, maybe, but not out. You can bet that she's going to be back. She lost today.
2 weeks was Steffi Graf's 2 weeks, and she played unbelievably well and certainly deserved it.
13 days.